Have you ever woken up feeling like everything in your life was about to change? I had no idea how completely my world would be flipped in just a few minutes. My name is Sage, and I always trusted my relationship with Jake, but one day, I accidentally saw his phone. A message popped up when he wasn't looking. I wasn't supposed to read it, but something compelled me to look. And I saw this. "You know I miss you, and it's hard for me without you." From a girl named Courtney. My heart literally skipped out of my chest. I felt a cold sweat run down my spine. My hands shook, and the world blurred around me. My mind spun into chaos. He's thinking about her? He's lying to me? Why am I finding this out like this? I couldn't go to work normally. Every step felt heavy, like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. I tried to smile at coworkers, but inside, everything was burning. Every message, every phone call of his felt like a knife to the heart. When I came home, Jake was calm, even slightly smiling. And me, I could barely hold back my tears. I wanted to scream, demand answers, but I couldn't find my voice. His calmness made me angrier. "Sage, you're different today," he said. "I'm just a little tired," I whispered, hiding my panic and pain. But then my eyes fell on his phone, flashing with a new message. And I knew this was just the beginning of something that would destroy everything we had built. I will never forget that evening. After seeing the first message, my heart couldn't find peace. But what I learned the next day shattered me completely. Jake was sitting on the couch, holding his phone. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't say a word. Then he spoke. "Sage, I need to tell you something." My heart clenched. A cold wave ran down my spine. "What is it?" I whispered, barely able to speak. "Courtney, she's pregnant," he said, and his words hit me like an icy boulder, shattering my heart into pieces. I felt the world stop. My hand fell onto the chair, my knees buckled, and my breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, but my voice betrayed me. I wanted to shove him, grab the phone, run away, but my feet felt glued to the floor. What do you mean? Pregnant? Her?" My words were barely a whisper, but in my mind, a storm of thoughts exploded. "I don't know how it happened. I didn't want you to find out like this. I love you," but I couldn't listen anymore. All his "buts" and "I love you" crashed against my pain like hammer blows. Everything I believed in was destroyed. I felt tears streaming down my cheeks like a burning river. I knew now we would never be the same. That evening passed in silence. I sat in a corner, hugging my knees, while Jake tried to find words that didn't exist. Every message, every look from him reminded me that our life had split in two. I didn't know how I would survive the next day, because ahead awaited more lies, jealousy, and pain. I couldn't believe my ears when Jake added the details. My heart clenched tighter and tighter. This wasn't just Courtney's first pregnancy. "Sage, she already had a child from me," he said quietly, barely audible. The world stopped. My throat tightened, and my eyes filled with tears. I felt my entire reality, everything I had built, crumble into pieces. My child, our plans, our dreams, and him with another woman. She, a second one. I whispered, feeling my voice tremble while everything inside me burned. "Yes, a second. And I don't know how it happened. I didn't want you to find out like this." His words sounded hollow. I couldn't stay silent anymore. A scream tore out of my throat on its own. "You're serious? Do you even understand what you're doing? We have a child together, Jake, and you're doing this with her?" His eyes fell to the floor, and he looked lost. But every time he tried to explain, my emotions erupted uncontrollably, a mix of shock, anger, pain, and betrayal. I didn't know if I would sleep that night, or ever be able to trust him again. But I knew one thing for sure. This could never be forgotten. It would change everything, forever. I didn't know where to start. The world around me felt unreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. My room felt suffocating, the walls closing in, and my heart pounding as if it wanted to break my ribs. Every thought about Jake and Courtney tore me into pieces. How could he? How could he do this a second time? How could he betray me when we already have our own child? I closed my eyes, trying to catch my breath. This can't be real. I'm imagining it. This is a dream. Thoughts raced through my mind, but reality gave me no escape. I could hear my heartbeat so loudly. It felt like the entire house felt it. At the same time, my fingers automatically reached for my phone. I didn't know if I wanted to call Jake, text Courtney, or just scream into the void. I opened his messages and saw again those words that ripped my heart apart. I can't stop this. You're important to me, but tears streamed like a river, but I couldn't cry quietly. I screamed, as if that could stop the world that had turned upside down. I imagined Jake and Courtney together, laughing, planning a future I would never be part of. I felt rage burning inside me. I sat on the floor, hugging my knees, thinking of our child. Little Aiden was sleeping in the next room, unaware that his mother's world was collapsing before her eyes. I felt both anger and shame. How could I trust someone who could break me so mercilessly? Then I made a decision. I would no longer stay silent. I would no longer let him decide who has the right to my life and my emotions. I began typing a message to Courtney. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking, but I knew I had to know the truth. Why are you doing this? Does she know about us? She's pregnant a second time? I typed, every word hitting me like a knife to the chest. Then the reply appeared, a simple sentence, but it tore me apart. Yes, I'm pregnant a second time. And this time, you can't change anything. The words hung in the air. I felt the ground drop from under me. But at the same time, something new awakened inside me: determination. I knew ahead lay a battle, an emotional war that wouldn't end quickly. But I also knew I wouldn't give up. I stood up, wiped my tears, and for the first time in hours, looked in the mirror. My reflection looked broken and wounded, but there was steel in my eyes. Sage, I thought, you will not let anyone destroy your life. Chaos awaited. Lies, jealousy, and pain. But also, there was me, strong, determined, and ready to fight for myself, my child, and my future. And that's when I realized this was only the beginning of a real drama that would change us all forever. The next morning, I woke up with a strange feeling: anger, shock, and fear twisted together inside me like a knot squeezing my heart. I knew I couldn't stay in the shadows anymore, remain silent, or let Jake and Courtney dictate my life. I had to act. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at my coffee mug. But even the taste didn't register. Everything felt foggy. My child, our Aiden, was sleeping in the next room, and I was thinking about the future. I couldn't allow him to grow up in a world of lies and betrayal. And I knew Jake, no matter what he said, couldn't fix this alone. I started with a plan. First, find out the truth. I texted Courtney. We need to talk. I want to know everything. You're pregnant a second time, right? What are you planning to do? The reply came almost instantly, cold, merciless. Yes, pregnant a second time. And this time, I'll make sure you have no right to him. I felt my heart tighten, but at the same time, something else awakened: determination. I would not let anyone take my life, my child, and my love. Next was the conversation with Jake. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I looked him straight in the eyes, feeling a power inside me I had never known. Jake, you've broken my life. I want the truth. And I want to know what you plan to do, I said. My voice calm, but each word hit like a hammer. He tried to justify himself. Sage, I love you, but I cut him off. Love, if you love me, why is this happening a second time? Why do you let lies control our life? The words hung in the air. His eyes fell to the floor, and I realized fear was starting to take over. Fear of losing me. Fear of losing my trust. I decided to act strategically. I wouldn't fight with emotions. I'd fight with facts. I would gather everything: messages, calls, documents, everything proving his double life. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I was doing it for myself and for Aiden. That evening, I sat on the floor in the living room, hugging my knees, thinking the future wouldn't be easy. This would be a war, an emotional war I had to win. I knew there was a fire inside me that would help me get through this. And I would never be the same again. I grabbed my phone and sent Jake one last message for the night. Tomorrow we talk. Everything. no secrets, no excuses, no you. This was the start of my path, the start of a fight for myself, my child, and my life. I was ready for the pain, tears, and disappointment ahead. But I also knew no one would destroy me without a fight. The next day, I decided to act decisively. I couldn't stay in the shadows any longer. I scheduled a meeting with Courtney, not for war, but for the truth. I had to know what she was planning, how she intended to affect my life, and if Jake was really going to betray us so mercilessly. When I entered the cafe, my heart was pounding wildly. Courtney was already there, smiling slightly, holding her phone. My anger and fear combined into a knot that made it hard to breathe. "Hi," she said calmly, but I felt the cold edge in her voice. "We need to talk. I want to know everything. Why are you doing this? Why a second time?" My words were sharp, emotional. She tossed her hair and replied calmly, "You don't understand, Sage. Jake and we just what? Just that you're pregnant a second time by him, and he's still living with me and our child." The scream tore out of my throat on its own. She flinched, but didn't back down. "I don't want this either, but it happened, and you have to understand, it's not just my fault. He's guilty too." My hands shook, my heart was racing like crazy. I couldn't believe that someone I loved could destroy our life so mercilessly. I stood up, leaning forward, looking her straight in the eyes. "You want me to just stay silent? Let my child grow up in a world of lies, while you take the man who belongs to me?" She stayed silent. At that moment, I realized that truth was more than words. It was actions, choices, a life being destroyed. Returning home, I confronted Jake. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I looked at him with a cold stare. "We talked with Courtney. I know everything," I said. His face went pale. "Sage, no words. You have to make a choice. And this choice isn't about your feelings. It's about me and Aiden. Do you understand?" My words cut through the air like blades. I felt something shift inside me. I was no longer the girl who let herself be deceived. I was a woman ready to fight for her life, her child, and her happiness. Ahead awaited a war, an emotional war where every word, every glance, every choice could change everything. But I knew one thing, I would survive, and no one could break me. The following days were pure chaos. I woke up thinking about Jake, Courtney, and our child. Every call, every message from him made my heart tighten and my mind spiral into chaos. I felt a mix of fear and anger that's hard to put into words. One morning, I decided I couldn't stay silent any longer. I called Jake. "We need to meet today, no excuses." He agreed, though I could hear the anxiety and fear in his voice. When we met, I looked at him and felt a power inside me awaken, a power I had never known before. "Jake, you have to choose. Your life, your decision, but my life is mine too, and I won't let you decide for me," I said calmly. But my words hit him like hammer blows. He tried to justify himself, but I cut him off. "Aren't you ashamed? We have a child together, Jake, and you're with her? She's pregnant a second time. Do you seriously think I'll stay here and be silent?" In his eyes, I saw fear. Fear of losing me. Fear of losing the trust he still had. And that gave me strength. I realized that now everything depended on me, on how ready I was to fight. That same day, I called Courtney. Her voice was cold. "You no longer have the right to interfere." I felt a fire of rage ignite inside me. "I have the right to my life, my child, and Jake, and I won't leave until the truth is set straight." We agreed to meet, and in that meeting, I put all my determination and anger into showing that I wasn't a girl who could be easily broken. I knew ahead there would be yelling, tears, and schemes. But I also knew I would never let anyone control my life again. That evening ended with a conversation with Jake. We sat in silence, both knowing the battle ahead was unpredictable. But I felt that now everything was in my control. My anger, my strength, and my determination, these were my greatest allies. I realized this conflict would change us all, but I was ready to go through it. I was ready for the emotional war, where every word, every glance, Every choice could be decisive, and I knew I wouldn't back down. That evening, I met Jake in our living room. The lamplight fell on his face, highlighting his exhaustion and fear. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I looked at him with a cold stare, and in it, he saw everything: my anger, pain, disappointment, and determination. Jake, it's over. No more secrets. No more excuses. You need to make a choice, I said calmly, but each word hit him harder than any scream. He tried to speak, but I cut him off. Don't say anything. Just listen. We have Aiden, and you have Courtney. She's pregnant a second time. You can't continue living like nothing happened. His hands trembled, and his eyes looked away. He knew I was right and that now everything depended on him. But I felt my strength was no longer in his hands, it was inside me. I don't want to lose you. And Aiden, he finally whispered. Then choose. And not just with words, with actions, because I'm not willing to tolerate lies anymore. I looked at him so he understood. There would be no more chances. The next day, I met Courtney in the same cafe where this drama began. Her cold gaze, her calmness, her confidence, it all pushed me. But I felt stronger now. I wasn't the Sage who cried, trembled, and stayed on the sidelines anymore. This is your last chance to leave Jake alone. Otherwise, things will get worse for you, I said, looking her straight in the eyes. She laughed, but it was weak and nervous. I felt her coldness waver, my determination changing the game. That evening, Jake called me. His voice was quiet, almost scared. Sage, I'll make a choice. I'm staying with you, for Aiden and for us. My heart tightened, but this time not from pain, but from the determination that brought victory. I knew this was only the beginning of a new battle, but now I was no longer the victim. I finally felt I control my life again. And now, no one can break it. The days after the last conversation with Jake passed like a fog. I felt a mix of relief and constant tension. He chose me, and now everything depended on how we both handled the consequences of his past choices. I spent more time with Aiden, trying to create a sense of safety and stability for him. Every laugh, every little word reminded me what I was fighting for and gave me strength to move forward. Courtney no longer tried to interfere openly, but her presence was felt everywhere through messages, mutual acquaintances, subtle hints. I learned to control my emotions. No more yelling, no more tears, only a calm mind and strategy. One evening, Jake sat next to me on the couch, took my hand, and quietly said, Sage, I know I ruined your life, and I never want to hurt you again. I'll be here, always. Tears filled my eyes, but this time they weren't from despair, but from relief. I felt the fear retreat, and my strength returning. We talked for a long time openly, about everything: the pain, the jealousy, what had happened, and I felt that trust could be rebuilt if both of us were willing to fight for it. That same evening, I sent Courtney one last message. This is your last chance. I will not allow any more interference. Jake chose me. Everything else is behind. She didn't reply, and that was a sign. The intrigues were over. My determination had won. I realized true strength isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself, your emotions, your life. And despite the pain and betrayal, I managed to preserve myself and my happiness. Ahead lay a new path, challenging but real. Me, Jake, and our little Aiden together. And now, no one could break what we rebuilt with our own hands. It was time for new beginnings. After all the conflicts, scandals, and tears, I finally felt peace. Jake was by my side, sincere and devoted, and I could see he was ready to act not with words, but with deeds. Aiden laughed and ran around the apartment, and his joy became a symbol of what was worth fighting for. Jake and I would sit together in the evenings, talking openly about everything: our fears, mistakes, jealousy, but also about the love that remained between us. I realized that trust doesn't rebuild instantly, but with each passing day, it grew stronger. Courtney stepped back. Her messages no longer troubled us. She left us in peace, and I felt that the intrigues that had long disrupted my life were finally over. One day, I sat on the couch holding Aiden in my arms, with Jake gently stroking my shoulder. I realized how important it was to cherish what we had and not let the past destroy the future. We understood that our family was our choice, our love, and our determination to stay together. I no longer feared the future. Yes, it could be challenging, but now I knew we were together, and we could overcome anything. My strength lay in my determination, my love in sincerity and devotion, and my heart was no longer bound by fear and doubt. This was a new beginning, a new life for the three of us, a life where deceit and jealousy stayed in the past, and ahead of us was only love, support, and hope for a happy future. I smiled, looking at Jake and Aiden, and realized true victory is preserving yourself and those you love. And now I knew that no intrigue, betrayal, or jealousy could ever break what we rebuilt with our own hands.